Hey there, guys. Sloppy here. Another free-to-play Friday. And this week we are talking about RuneScape. And I've sort of resisted doing RPGs in general on this random show I do on Fridays where we talk about free-to-play games and give a little review. But RuneScape is one I feel confident in talking about. And one of the reasons I don't really talk about RPGs ever is that I think a lot of the RPG stuff comes in the late game and after you've been playing it for a long time. Like, you have to get past the initial grind to really get into an RPG. And RuneScape is one that I've actually done that in the past. I used to play RuneScape a lot. It was sort of the school game. Everyone in my school played RuneScape when I was a kid. Well, yeah, I was a kid. I was grade 7, grade 8. Everyone played RuneScape. So you got home, you played RuneScape. And RuneScape is a free-to-play-ish MMORPG. We'll talk about that in a second. It's a bit dated. They have this updated version of the game. You can play the classic game, which the graphics look somehow even worse than this. This is sort of the modified modern game of it, which is still the same game, but the graphics have a little bit of update. They tweaked some of the systems and whatnot. And yeah, that's basically RuneScape. If you haven't heard about it, this is what it is. It's a massive multiplayer RPG, and it's kind of crazy. My first impression, going back to it, it's kind of not a first impression because I've played a lot of RuneScape. The nostalgia is very real, and so is the grind still. You know, I jumped in and I was like, oh boy, yeah, it still feels the same. Still a little awkward to control. The camera's a bit weird. There's a lot of strange chat popping up on the screen, and yeah, it takes a while to mine and cook. And I will say, though, the nostalgia of the fireworks and leveling up, also still very real, and lots of the game being behind the paywall, still very real. So that was sort of my first impression. The nostalgia was very real, and it brought back all the good things I liked about it, and all the bad things. So, let's just jump into the pros and cons of, I guess, RuneScape in what year are we in? 2017? RuneScape in 2017. Some of the pros, there's still just an absolute ton of stuff to do. There's a ton of skills to level up. There's a ton of things to level. I mean, you can spend all your time cooking all kinds of random recipes, you know, running around, farming ingredients, milking cows, and just making cakes all day. And there's just so much of that stuff to do. I mean, you can get really into smithing and mining if you're into that and make really cool armor and sell it. You can get really into cooking. You can get really into herbology. You can get really into fighting. You can get really into anything you want, which I think is one of the biggest parts about RuneScape, is there's just so much stuff to do and all these skills to level up. And it feels cool to level up in this game. Really any skill. For one, the fireworks and everything is just kind of fun. You're like, yeah, obviously there's a grind to get to that, but it pops up and you're like, oh, awesome. So the feeling of accomplishment in this game is definitely there. And also, you know, you're working towards level 5 so that, you know, you can go from making bread to making this other thing, which, you know, oh, now I can go back to that part of the map and farm those ingredients and actually use them in whatever this is. So there's lots of stuff to do, lots of skills to level up, and lots of things to aim for, which I think is really cool, you know? Like, oh, if I reach level 40, I can bake this cake, and if I reach level 60, I can go in this guild for, you know, the cooking guild that is only available for level 60 cooks who have put a tremendous amount of time to cooking. So, on top of there being lots of skills to level up and sort of that thing being cool, there's a lot of reasons to get those skills up. There's a lot of things to aim for inside of each skill tree, which is really cool. There's still a ton of people playing. I guess I wasn't surprised by the amount of people playing, but I kind of was. I knew this game was still popular, even this many years later, but it did surprise me that everywhere I went, there was people selling stuff, there was people fighting. There's definitely a lot of people to meet and play with, and that's really cool. It's a very full and very large world, so at some point I opened up the world map and sort of browsed around it. The world map is huge. There's so much in the world, you know, every town feels like there's a lot in it. It's a lot of the same things, you know, every town probably has a furnace and an anvil and whatnot, but it feels very full and it feels very large, which is really great. I put this as both a pro and a con. I put grind. A lot of people play these RPGs and these MMOs to have this grind. This one, I kind of put as a pro because there's a you're grinding for, you know, the grind has a sense of accomplishment in this game. You know, we talked about leveling up skills. There's definitely a point to the grind in this game, but it's still very much a grind. And some people like that, some people don't. So it's kind of both a pro and a con. Let's talk about the cons. So I already talked about the grind. It's a very grindy game. It's an MMORPG. It takes a lot to get to the higher levels of any skill. And it's going to be a lot of a grind to get there. I spent just a bunch of time mining to get to level 15 so I could mine iron. And it took probably an hour of mining everything else, walking back and forth between places. It's a grind. It's a grind to level up any one of the skills, and there's a million skills to level up. So there's a large grind if you want to play this game, but for some people, that's a good thing. The game looks pretty terrible, especially by today's standard. I remember the game looking bad 10, 15 years ago when I played it. The game looks bad. It is what it is. If you can get past that, it's a really good game. Some people can't. Some people don't want to. The game looks bad. It's better than it used to look, but still bad. It also runs pretty poorly. So it had an auto adjust settings to your computer. I clicked that. It put basically everything on ultra. And then the game didn't run, didn't really load, didn't really run. I switched everything to medium, and it still didn't run great. There was a lot of sort of stuttering and lag. Maybe some of that was the server and my internet. But overall, the game just ran pretty poorly, and for a game that looks like this, you'd want it to run really well. So that kind of sucks. The combat's pretty lame. Fighting in this game, you know, you click, and then click again. And it's just lame. I never liked fighting in this game. I always used to level up my fighting, 'cause that's what my friends were into. And it's kind of lame. There's not a whole lot of quests in this game. That was an issue I, again, had way back in the day. There's not a huge amount of quests. There's like 217, I believe, which, you know, sounds like a lot on the top, but it's really not. This game's a lot more sort of choose what you want to do, and there's not really quests for it, so you kind of make your own, which I don't really like. Some people might view that as a pro. It's kind of more customizable. I view it more as a con. I wish there was more quests. I wish, you know, at level 50 cooking, you go and get a quest to get to level 70 and unlock, you know, the cooking guild or whatever it is. Something like that. I just wish there was more quests in this game. And the biggest con with this game, it is free to play. You can also play it in your browser, which is cool. It doesn't work with Chrome for some reason, so that's something. But the biggest issue with this game is a large chunk of it is behind a paywall, which sucks. You can pay this membership fee, which I think is about $10 a month. I think I remember reading somewhere that you can pay for it with in-game currency now. But a large chunk of this game, a bunch of the skill tree, a bunch of the skills, it's not really a tree, a bunch of the skills, and a whole lot of the map is hidden behind this paywall. Which, you know, I understand. That's how it's able to keep developing the game and whatnot. But it feels like a really large chunk of this game. There's still a ton to do in the free-to-play side, but it feels like a lot of this game's hidden behind the paywall, which kind of sucks. Anyway, that's sort of my pros and cons. My final review, RuneScape, is kind of exactly how I remember it. There's a lot to do, there's a lot to grind for, but the grind feels pretty good because you keep reaching new things to do in whatever skill you're trying to grind for. There's a lot of areas of the map to go to. The map looks really good. The world, it doesn't look good. The world is filled with different biomes and different cities and things, and there's a lot of variation between them. Even if the walk is very short, it kind of just hits a wall and then it's something else. But there's a lot of creatures to kill, there's a lot of different things, and I always liked that this game sort of made you walk between different places. You know, it doesn't put all the resources in one area. You kind of have to travel to the different parts of the world that you want to do things in. So my final review, it's a grind, and you reach a certain point where you want to go past the paywall if you want to keep playing, so it's only free to play for so long before you get to that point, I think. And it's fun. It still is fun, you know? Getting the fireworks every time you level up and whatnot. It's still fun, even 10, 15 years later. So I'd recommend checking it out. If you've never played it, and you're looking for an MMORPG to sort of fill your time, RuneScape's still a very good one. And it's free for, I mean, you can definitely fill your time with its free section. Yeah, it was kind of fun playing this. It was very nostalgic, and it was kind of cool to go back to it, see the small amount of upgrades they've made to the graphics and whatnot. Either way, this was RuneScape, free to play Friday. There's a fly on my screen. There we go. Get out of here, friend. Or foe. I don't know. Anyway, leave a like if you enjoyed. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you still play RuneScape, if you used to, and it's kind of a flashback for you as well. And subscribe for more of this every Friday and more random stuff the rest of the week. Catch you guys later. Ciao!